Hey guys, what is up? It is your friendly neighborhood Oobies here, back again with another Isaac Breaking Run. This time, as you can see on the screen, we're starting with rubber cement. It is a Curse of the Blind floor, so with Curse of the Blind, I literally just grab the item and then if it's good, you know, we can roll with it. So, we're starting with rubber cement, which is just a sweet item. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite items in the game. It's not necessarily good, but we have fun here. That's the goal, at least. We don't actually have fun here. We wish we had fun here. And that's what we strive for. Anyway, I want to talk about the notion. So this is mostly pertaining to World of Warcraft. The notion of people wanting hardcore gameplay, right? Now, here is my... I'll try and explain this argument as best as I can if you do not play World of Warcraft, which I assume there's a good amount of you who do not, considering that my WoW leveling series has fairly low view count, but that's okay. Alright, so, basically, in World of Warcraft, there are systems set in place to make the game more accessible, right? And there are a good number of things in the game that are not as hardcore as they have been in the past. Heroic dungeons are a good example of this. Now, here's my problem, right? My problem is there are ways to play the game hardcore. There are. And it's not like, you know, they're not like off the wall, really weird, like you have to hamper yourself or anything. Like there are literally mythic dungeons and mythic raids that exist, right? Higher difficulties that make the game similarly hardcore to the way it used to be. Not in the exact same fashion, but it's definitely more difficult, and most people that I know who have done mythic dungeons or mythic raids say that it's great and really awesome and enjoyable. Also, the the final boss of Hellfire Citadel, Archimonde? Yeah, Archimonde. Mythic Archimonde had the longest, I think longest time between launch and the first kill. He might, maybe not longest, but he's up there. He's comparable to like Molten Core levels of from launch to completion, which Molten Core was unreal how long it took for people to beat Rag. And he's like fairly comparable to that, which in my book makes it seem fairly fucking hardcore, but whatever. People will make their own arguments as they will in that circumstance as to how it's not hardcore like it used to be, and blah-de-blah, etc., rose-tinted goggles, and blah-de-blah. Anyway, so here's my problem. Because the counter-argument, when mythic raids and mythic dungeons are brought up as a counter-argument to, the game is so casual, always the reverse counter-argument to that ends up being, well, why would I do that when I can just get the same gear but easier? Well, the answer is, if you're looking for a hardcore experience, you're not going to take the easy way. There is a path of least resistance that is available to people who do not like the hardcore gameplay. However, if you like hardcore gameplay, you will do the hardcore gameplay. So if your counter-argument to there is hardcore shit in the game and you can do it if you want is, but why would I do it? Then you're not hardcore! And then you don't even want the hardcore gameplay. You're literally just lying. You're jumping on a stupid fucking bandwagon. It's so frustrating. Like, they're fucking, look at, I mean, Diablo 3 or... I'm assuming Path of Exile has a similar hardcore system, right? Where you fucking die, character's gone. That's it. Wanna know why people do that? It's not because it has fucking greater rewards than normal, I mean, maybe it does. I don't fucking know. I don't play those games. But people generally do it because it is challenging. Because it appeals to hardcore players. People who want that difficulty. Who strive to struggle, you know? That's the goal, is to make it hard. And it's obviously still enjoyable. And mythic dungeons and mythic raiding in World of Warcraft do that. There is nothing about them that is like, you know, it's such a fucking stupid, I want to say fallacious argument, but I mean, I'm not gonna go that far. But it is ridiculous to me that it's like, we want hardcore back. You have hardcore. Yeah, but why would I do that when I can just smash my brain into the keyboard for 25 minutes in LFR? Well, because that's not hardcore. The reason that you don't, oh, Jesus, I don't even know. It's such a frustrating fucking circle, you know? It's this horrible, horrible spiral of fucking idiocy. Like, if some other player getting items easier than you are hampers your gameplay experience in any way, or you perceive it to hamper your gameplay experience in any way, you just might be an idiot. Because there's literally no negative to another player having gear, right? There's no way that can negatively influence your gameplay. Unless you're talking PvP, which that's an entirely different discussion, and also hardcore dungeons and raiding has nothing to do with it. But I mean, that's always been a fucking idiotic complaint as well, whenever any catch-up mechanic exists, which people seem to forget. There were catch-up mechanics in every expansion in World of Warcraft. The only time where there wasn't a catch-up mechanic for gear late into the expansion was vanilla, because also that wasn't an expansion. BC had the Isle of the Isle of Daily Quests, and then of course Wrath had Argent Tournament initially, and then the ICC dungeons, and I'm sure Kata had something that I don't know because I didn't play during late Kata. Mop, I believe, was the true introduction of the LFR system, which acted as a catch-up mechanic there, and then Warlords of Draenor, of course, has plenty of catch-up mechanics, including Tanaan Jungle, none of which negatively affect raiders, people who work towards their gear and want to have a nice hardcore-ish experience. Doesn't negatively affect them at all, yet they love to complain about it. I don't know, it's so frustrating. Like, people seem to know, they try to act like they know what they want, but the average person doesn't know what the fuck they want. They, like, hear other people's opinions on the subject, and then they try and just parrot it and tailor it to their own specific feelings in order to describe what they want, when in reality it's not even true. For example, the whole, oh, that's pretty good. The whole, I miss hardcore raiding. I miss heroics being difficult. I mean, maybe you do. But, I mean, you know, you can do comparable to difficult heroics right now within the game. Nothing's stopping you. It's there. But people just love to complain. I mean, fuck, dude, look at the amount of people, right? Back to the whole, you know, hardcore players will not give a shit about the rewards. They don't only do hardcore stuff because of the rewards that being hardcore gets you. Like, look at what fucking Kripparrian did in Wrath of the Lich King for a while. you probably know of Kripparrian, but what he did was this challenge, right? Where it was pretty much introduced, you know, widespread in Wrath of the Lich King, not within the game. In WoW, like it was just a thing that some dude came up with, and people are like, yeah, this is awesome, because it's difficult. And it was essentially like you had to level using like whites. Like you couldn't use like greens or better. You couldn't. God, there was just so many completely arbitrary, idiotic restrictions that made leveling literally harder while not making it more enjoyable in any way, right? And Crip did it. He was the first person to get level cap with that. I think it was, or no, maybe it was Kata, actually. Now that I think about it, I think he hit 85. Please, just let me the fuck out of here. Holy shit. Actually, I think it was Kata. But like, yeah, so that was the thing that he did because he's fucking hardcore. You know, it's not because at the end of it, oh, you get $100 or oh, the game gives you free purples. No, he fucking did it because it was fun to him. Cause he's a hardcore player. That's why you do hardcore shit. It's not because at the end of the day, doing this hardcore shit, you get super awesome, sweet epics and sick fat loots or anything. It's not the reason for that. And that's the other thing too, is that, you know, if obviously individuals are coming up with the different arguments of like, you know, oh, I wish the game was more hardcore. I wish we had difficult heroics back, and why would I do this when I can do this and it's easier? Well, I know it's individual different people, but if you do see it as one argument, which I actually have seen people on Reddit just collect it all in one single post, like all of this dumb shit that I'm fucking spewing. If it is one person, here's the weird thing: they want difficult heroics back, and then they argue that, well, why would I do mythic dungeons when I can just do LFR? Because the reason, like, difficult heroics weren't even, they didn't even give you that really good rewards. BC heroics were like that was like step fucking 0, right? Or step 0.5. That was like, it wasn't like you were doing them for raid tier gear. In fact, you weren't. You literally weren't. They didn't drop that good of gear. I mean, it dropped good enough that you could begin raiding the first tier of raids, which was Karazhan. But like, that was it. I mean, you didn't do you did the heroics in BC in order to begin doing the raiding, right? So even if they brought back difficult heroics in exactly the same way that they existed in BC, people wouldn't do them. Like, these people who want them back would be like, yeah, but why would I do it when I can just LFR? Well, because you wanted difficult heroics, right? That's what you said you wanted. Are you telling me you didn't want that? I mean, I'll agree with the argument that, like, you know, people want to actually work towards gear. They want something to be difficult and then get their gear. Sure, that's a completely legitimate point. Absolutely. And again, it's also available to you if you want. But whatever. And then the other thing to me is that pisses me off about the WoW community is that, like, they always act, and this is actually like most online communities. This isn't just exclusively to WoW or whatever. They always act like they, as an individual, are the spokesperson of a community. You know? They always believe, can you stop bouncing in such a fucking retarded way? They always seem to believe that, like, they know what is best for the game. They as an individual, right? When in reality, all they know is their own feelings, and they're trying to articulate their own feelings. Which, generally, they're pretty poor at doing. But, you know, for example, like, when it comes to Hearthstone, let's say, in Hearthstone, so many people are trying to, like, explain, you know, like, they're like, yeah, but, so this RNG is fine, but then this isn't, right? Like, this specific RNG isn't good for the game. And then they don't even go into reasons why. They're just like, you know, it's like this is my opinion statements. And, like, no backing or anything. And they draw, like, an arbitrary line in the sand that most people would disagree with, because most people have their own arbitrary line in the sand. And they just act like, yeah, but so Knife Juggler's a fine card with RNG, which I will agree with. I've gone into detail of why I think a lot of the RNG in Hearthstone is pretty much okay. But, you know, they'll be like, oh, Knife Juggler's fine, but then something like Mad Bomber's not. And it's like, what? They're like the same. I mean, like, they're not literally the same, but like the type of RNG that they both kind of induce is pretty much the same. And it's just because, like, you know, they had a bad personal experience with Mad Bomber or something. Whoops, I shouldn't. Okay. Well, I have one bomb. I need to be very careful because there's a room where I need to use this bomb. This is a nightmare, actually. I'm really not enjoying this run even a little bit. It's the opposite of enjoyable, in fact. Like, the actual, just straight opposite of enjoyable. I've had a curse on, what, every floor? Or did I have, second floor didn't have a curse, I think? Jesus. And yeah, so that's the thing too, is that, in WoW, right, this phenomena of people thinking they know exactly what's best for the game at large, while in reality they're just an individual, it is so fucking present in the World of Warcraft online communities. It is so disgusting. Because it's like, you know, people are like, oh, they should remove LFR. You know, they should just get rid of it. It's a bad concept, and they should fucking remove it, right? And I'm not saying that stance is flawed. I'm saying that if they make that stance, right? If they take that stance, and then do not, I guess, quantify it, do not elaborate on why they feel the way they do, then what's the point? It's just, I mean, it's static, right? It's white noise at that point. Just saying, well, they should remove LFR because it makes the game too casual. Again, it's not good enough. That doesn't elaborate. That doesn't explain what the actual problem with LFR is. I personally don't think there's a problem with LFR. I think all LFR does is makes the game more accessible to more people. I don't see how it could hurt anyone in any fashion. Also, if you were to remove LFR, then the absolutely required legendary ring in Warlords of Draenor, which, if you want to rate at the top level, is a required item. Like, you've got to have completed it, right? There's no two ways about it. You have to have the legendary ring. If they just removed LFR tomorrow, nobody's going to be getting the legendary ring, you know? Because nobody is going to be going back and doing Highmaul and Blackrock when they are, you know, progressing in Hellfire Citadel. And then when people drop out of progression, when people, you know, take a break or whatever, it's like, I'm waiting for Legion. Once those people who are progressing through Hellfire Citadel leave for any reason, then the entire rating pool just decreases, right? Sure, there's going to be exceptions to this assumption, and there are going to be people who will be like, hey, we need more raiders. Let's do Highmaul and Blackrock with these people so they can get their rings, so then we can actually progress through Hellfire. Like, that's going to exist. That always will. But the vast majority of people who are doing Hellfire progression are not going to go back and do the old raids. The only reason that they do that right now is because LFR handsomely rewards you for doing so. Gives you some pretty good money. It's not great money. I mean, it's like, what is it? It's like 160 gold or something like that per wing, which means doing the entirety of Highmaul is... I mean, doing the entirety of Highmaul probably takes like an hour through LFR. And there's 3 wings, right? So, whatever that math breaks down to. It's not bad. I mean, it's pretty good. And I mean, fuck it, why not, you know? I'm glad I got this stupid item. Yeah, I mean, people do it for money or getting their legendary rings for dual specs and stuff like that. You know, there's incentive to do LFR, even if you are doing Hellfire progression. They're not great incentives, but they're better than literally nothing, which is what would happen if they just removed LFR tomorrow. And like, you know, a lot of people who go through this argument frequently about the problems with the game and, oh, I'll remove LFR and it'll solve every problem. Those people, when approached with the idea that removing LFR will actually just hurt the game really, really badly now, they'll be like, well, they should have never added it. Well, it's too late for that. Is it not? How do you fix it from here? You know, anybody can say, well, if they had done this at this time instead of this, everything would be better. That's called hindsight. Hindsight is bullshit and meaningless. That's not entirely true. You can use hindsight to your advantage to improve future, like in the future, right? Which everybody does. You're not gonna like point out something to somebody else in hindsight, and then that person's gonna be like, well, I never saw that. I never thought about that. You know, chances are, because it's hindsight for you and them, they're gonna have seen it, because hindsight's 20/20, as the saying goes. So anybody saying like, well, they should have never added LFR, that, I mean, again, just white noise. That's static. Sure, maybe you're right. There's a good chance that that's true, but it's too late. It doesn't matter. Saying that now does nothing. It does nothing. It means nothing. It's just a super fucking frustrating situation to me. And the worst part is, like, it's such a vocal minority. All the complainers are such a vocal minority. I mean, yeah, WoW has lost a large amount of subs. Truth. But no individual person can take their own experiences and pinpoint why 5 million other people left the game. That's impossible. Because I guarantee you, you know, a huge chunk of the people who left maybe were just new players. Oh, maybe they were new players, and then they thought, oh, there's too much stuff in this game. I can't handle this. I'm gonna go back to playing League of Legends. Ever think about that? Maybe not everybody is level capped. And maybe not everybody has the exact same feelings about LFR and whatever else as this vocal minority that seems to think that they understand everything about why everybody leaves the game and all the problems with the game. Also, here's the other thing. WoW still has 5 million subs, making it still the biggest MMORPG that exists, right? So they're doing something right. I mean, clearly, the game couldn't be so awful as the vocal minority seems to try and make it seem. So, I mean, it's still the largest MMORPG that exists. So whatever. Also, I'm enjoying it, so fuck you or something. And that's the other thing that's so frustrating too, is that this vocal minority is such a... It's such just like a toxic thing, you know? I hate using toxic because Riot has poisoned the word toxic. But I mean, that is what I mean. I mean toxic. Because, right, when I was considering coming back to WoW, I will be taking Abaddon, not even a consideration. And I will be taking Darkbomb. Yes. Please. But when I was considering resubbing to WoW, I was doing all this reading, you know? I was looking at all this stuff relating to WoW, and I was like, oh man, everybody seems to fucking hate this game. Oh shit, man, I don't know if I should resub. And then I finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna resub. And then I'm like, whoa, why did people complain? You know? Like, I formed this opinion based on the vocal minority, and then I regretted forming that opinion, and now here I am enjoying the shit out of the game. Because it is enjoyable. In my opinion. I hate that I have to say in my opinion all the goddamn time. Should be implied, but whatever. In my last video when I was talking about fighting games, which I'll you know what, I'll finish up this episode talking about a little bit more, elaborating on my opinions a little bit more. So when I was talking about fighting games, somebody commented that, like, you know, oh, this is just like your opinion, man. Yeah, it is. That's, I mean, I did say in my opinion a lot in that episode. Maybe I forgot to say it before a singular statement, and that was the problem. But here's the thing: when discussing anything that is not, it's not able to be analyzed objectively, right? Such as, what kind of fighting game is better, classical fighting games or Super Smash Brothers? There's no way to analyze that objectively. Everybody has different opinions on that subject. I was sharing mine, right? So it's implied in that my opinion on health as a system, it implies it's an opinion rather than an objective statement, right? Because it couldn't be. Well, at least it wasn't really an objective statement, but I will elaborate a bit further to explain my stance on why I think HP systems are generally not great. And also, I could explain why Isaac does HP really well. So, a classic HP system is binary, right? It doesn't matter how you display it in any way, right? That is irrelevant. The point is, it's binary. You either have health or you do not, right? Amount of health just increases longevity of these events, right? That's all it does. So, for example, let's take Binding of Isaac for example, which we'll come back to in a minute and explain why it actually does HP right. So, in Isaac, right, we have HP. Bosses have HP, right? All that HP is, the only thing that matters about that HP is, as you can see here, they have it, right? Now, there is a good example of a good way to utilize HP. But, my point is, he has it. I'm hitting him, he's losing it, right? He's still alive. Nothing has changed from right now, or from the beginning of the fight to right now, right? Nothing has changed. And now it's changed, because he's at 0. So it's binary. They have it or they don't. Once they don't have it, they die. Simple as that, right? That's in its most basic form what an HP system does, right? Now, let me elaborate on how to make an HP system that is good, that is intuitive and actually expands on the idea of HP in a non-boring fashion. War, I mean, well, you know, we just saw him, so let's talk about it. So War, as the boss, is very cool because what he does is, right, he has the HP binary. If he loses his health, he's dead, right? And if he has health, he's alive. However, the good thing that War has is once he reaches a certain HP, the fight shifts. It's still somewhat binary, kind of, because, you know, you could argue that the point where it shifts, that arbitrary point on the health pool, that it shifts is essentially like the 0 of the initial system, right? So he has health, and then he doesn't, and then he, quote, respawns with a different amount of health, right? That's a reasonable argument, but at the very least, it is more interesting than just being a strict binary. At the very least, it's multiple binaries, right? Which is inherently more complex. And that's my problem, is that classical HP systems are very non-complex and very boring. So another way that Binding of Isaac does a really good thing with health, and this is much less binary, is the way that your health works. Your health is such a fucking good idea. The way your health operates in Binding of Isaac is so fucking smart. It's just so smart, right? So you have, like, okay, you have red hearts, you have spirit hearts, and you have black hearts. Spirit hearts and black hearts in this circumstance are more or less the same, right? Fairly irrelevant, the difference between them. However, red hearts versus spirit hearts is a very unique thing, right? It's armor, if you want to think about it that way. But the other thing is there's a lot of depth in the way that your red hearts work. There's a lot of things that make red hearts a lot more unique than just a health binary of you have it or you don't. And the way that they do that is so cool because there are items that care about your red hearts, right? There are deals with the devil where you have the option of trading away red hearts, your only form of actual permanent HP, which again isn't even permanent because of the way that you know, health systems work. You can trade away the only form of permanent HP you have for this thing, this, you know, whatever item that you see fit. You get this decision making, right, with your health, rather than I have low health, I should play careful. Because that's the classical health systems just have a very basic sort of interaction with the health, which is I don't have a lot of it, I should play careful if I don't want to die, right? And that's it. That's the entirety of the gameplay relating to classical health systems, generally. And Isaac does a great job of improving on that, because that's true. When you're low health, you should play a bit more carefully. Like, it's not like that was a lost part in the changes to the system. But the cool thing that it introduces is that there's actually more play to it. You can make decisions. For example, if you have Horror Babylon, you can make decisions to lose red hearts consciously. Your permanent HP, just lose it consciously in order to get a stat bonus, which you assume at this point will improve your odds of beating the game, right? When you make that calculated risk. Or take that calculated risk, rather. And, I mean, again, it's more than just that. There's a lot of little tiny things about the health system in Isaac that make it really, really cool. And that's partly due to the fact that instead of health just being this unaffected mess of just, you know, a complete, like I said before, binary, where you either have it or you don't, health is actually part of the game, part of the gameplay in Isaac, because the way you get more health is through items, which, if you're playing Isaac himself, you might be like, well, I don't think I need more health right now, so I'm gonna reroll this health item and see if I can get something better, you know? And all of that just adds depth to the gameplay, including depth to the health system. And that's why I think Smash Bros. Is such a unique and awesome fighting game, is because the HP system in Smash Bros. is first of all, it's so unique. The idea that instead of you get hit for an arbitrary amount of damage and eventually just suddenly die, right? Instead of that being the case, it's not even close to that. You will never die from just being hit in Smash Bros. There is strategy to how to kill people aside from just hitting them more. Depending on the attack, no matter if they're at the capped percent, the 999%, right? It doesn't matter. If you're using a specific hit, it will not ever kill them. When that's not true with any classical health system. The way that Smash Bros. Is so unique in this regard is basically the gameplay involved in actually killing your opponent is just so unique because you have options, right? Here's the other thing too, is that you can kill your opponent. Let's compare it to chess, right? Okay, here. I'll do the chess comparison that I didn't want to do in my last episode. So, in chess, if you don't know anything about chess, that's okay. I got your back. I barely know shit about chess, but I got your back. So let's say in chess, you do an opening. In chess, most of the time, your openings are pretty much scripted. You know, you have a certain set of openings that you yourself would like to do. I'm really unlucky with rerolls, by the way. And, like, you know, depending on what your opponent does, maybe you change which opening you're going to do. But for the most part, your first, like, 3 to 4 moves, that's probably too many, but your first few moves are pretty much scripted, right? You're going to do them. And there are openings in chess that you can do that are risky, right? And they're risky because if your opponent does a specific follow-up, if they react to your opening in a specific fashion, then they can get a huge material lead. And in chess, one of the metrics of who is winning is material lead, right? Which can be compared to percentage in Smash Bros. And the material lead is essentially each piece is worth some amount of pawns. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but each piece is worth a certain amount of pawns, and a pawn, of course, is worth 1 pawn. And so if you have a material lead in chess, generally you're said to be in an advantaged position, right? Because you just literally have more better pieces on the board. But then, it doesn't matter if your opponent checkmates you, right? If you have a material lead and your opponent checkmates you, that doesn't matter. You lost. In Smash Bros., if you have a percentage lead and then your opponent knocks you off the stage and you flub your recovery, or, you know, let's say they're playing Marth and they do a Ken combo on you, right? It doesn't matter if they're at 200% and you're at 50. That's irrelevant. You have this huge percentage lead, but they can still kill you. It doesn't matter if you let them do this thing, right? If you let them checkmate you. In a classic fighting game, that doesn't really happen. If you have a health lead, you're winning. The way to get back, like, the way that your opponent beats you if you have a health lead is by reversing that lead. It's just a very, very simple thing. It's essentially if you removed checkmates from chess, and the winner was always the guy who had the last pieces on the board, if the king was just a random piece, right? It just removes this entire dimension of the gameplay. Right? There's no risk of you immediately dying. And again, this isn't entirely indicative of every fighting game, because sure, some do have ridiculous combos that can kill you from 50% or whatever, but it's still, I don't know, I guess innate in fighting games, in classic health systems, that there's just this entire dimension of essentially checkmates that's just removed, right? It just doesn't exist. So, I don't know, that's, hopefully I've elaborated further and explained my stance a bit further, so anybody who disagreed with me in the last episode, at least, I mean, if you still disagree with me, that's cool too. You know, we don't have to agree on everything. Welcome to the real world, where every human being has different opinions on different subjects, and doesn't have to agree on everything. So, but hopefully, at the very least, you understand my stance a bit better. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that episode. I can't believe I won that run, to be completely honest with you, but I did, and that's that. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe, favorite, share, tweet, Facebook, LinkedIn, I don't know. Fucking do whatever with the video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.